بلساني يفقه قولي الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله صلى الله تعالى عليك وسلم. There is a caravan which is traveling, and as they are traveling, one of the women from the caravan, she says to her husband कि कई देर से हम सफ़र कर रहे हैं, बच्चे जो है वो थके हुए हैं, उनको भूख लगी है, आप जाए और जो हमारा लीडर है उसको बताए कि हमको रोकना है, कुछ आराम करनी है, कि रात के लिए यहाँ हम ठहरे. We will stop here for tonight. We've been traveling for such a long time. The children are tired and so on and so forth. The man, he goes to the leader of the caravan. They agree. कहते हैं कि हम यहीं रुकते हैं रात के लिए. वो खाना का इंतज़ाम करते हैं, सब लोग खाते हैं पीते हैं. फिर कोई बंदा कहता है कि हम जिस जगह में हैं, the place we are in, we do not know where we are. हम तो जानते ही नहीं है ये कौन सा इलाका है, कौन से लोग यहाँ रहते हैं. तो जो कैरावन का जो इमाम है, जो लीडर है, वो कहता है ठीक है, हम ऐसा करते हैं कि कुछ अफराद, कुछ बंदे को हम मुतय्यन करते हैं. We will fix some individual, 6 people. They will guard the caravan. ताकि रात में अगर कोई आ जाए तो they can wake us up and we can defend ourselves. तो ऐसा ही होता है, सब लोग सो जाते हैं. But they're really tired, they've had a lot of food. And as everybody goes to sleep, साथ में ये 6 लोग जो है, जिनका ये काम था हिफाजत करना, to keep care of the caravan, they 6 go to sleep as well. अब Sayyiduna Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he used to have a practice. उनका एक अमल था, रात को he used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in addition to this, he would go out at night. रात को वो निकलते, he would be wrapped up, and he would see what is going on in the community and society. क्या हालत है, what is going on with the people. And this is very important, to know what is the situation of the people of your community. जब वो निकलता है, so he sees that there is a caravan, and all of the people, सब अफराद वो सो रहे हैं, completely unguarded. He returns back to Madinatul Munawwara. He knocks on the door of Sayyidina Abdul Rahman bin Auf. It's the middle of the night. दरवाजे को खोलते हैं. He says, what's the matter? Must be some serious matter. You're knocking on my door in the middle of the night. He says, come. This is the situation. This is what has happened. And so they go. They sit on a small hill and they watch over the caravan. Now from these 6 guards, one of them in the night, they wake up and they see these 2 men on the hillside. सोचते हैं कि शायद हमारे जो काफिला का जो अमीर है, उन्होंने उनको मुतय्यन किया होगा. Maybe he's hired some people extra to take care of the caravan. तो वो सो जाता है, he goes to sleep again. In the morning when they all wake up, they realize all of them, they were sleeping. सब सो रहे हैं. Now they're worried. One of them, they say that, in the middle of the night, I fell asleep, but there was 2 individuals, and he says, so I thought that you had hired them. The Amir, he says, no, I hired no such people. They start checking their possessions. Okay, what if somebody has taken something from us? सब कुछ देखते हैं, nothing is missing, कुछ भी गायब नहीं है. So they are amazed. They think, who are these 2 people? The Amir of the caravan, he says कि अगर तू शहर में गया, क्या उनके जो चेहरे हैं वो आप पहचान सकते हैं? वो बंदा कहता है, of course, definitely I could recognize these 2 individuals. So he goes, जा, शहर में जा, and find out who these 2 people were. कि हम सब सो रहे थे, we were all sleeping, they could have taken whatever they wanted. We should give them some reward for their trustworthiness. जब वो बंदा शहर में जाता है, he's looking around, and he sees these 2 people, they are returning back to Madinatul Munawwara. He asks somebody, who are those 2 people? And the man, he says to them that this is Amir al-Mu'mineen, the leader of the believers, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. And that is his friend, Abdul Rahman bin Auf radiallahu ta'ala. But he doesn't believe, because maybe he's mistaken. So he goes and asks somebody else. Taki sure ho jaye, कि definitely this was the leader of the believers. When he returns back to the caravan, the Amir of the caravan, he asks, he says, who were the people? He goes, मैंने पहचान लिया वो कौन है, लेकिन मैं अगर बताऊंगा तो आप मानेंगे नहीं, you will not believe. He says, go and tell me, who was it? He said, the person who watched us whilst we were sleeping was none other than the leader of the believers, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sayyiduna Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. Now these were all Christians. वो कहते हैं कि हमने मुसलमान के बारे में ये सुना था कि ये लोग अमानतदार है. These are trustworthy people. But today I have witnessed it with my own two eyes. He goes, मैं तो जा रहा हूँ शहर में इस्लाम कबूल करने के लिए. अगर आप लोग चाहते हैं तो आप भी मेरे साथ हो जाए. And like this is mentioned that the majority, if not the majority, the entirety of that caravan, they accepted Islam at the hands of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. The trustworthiness of the Muslims, my dear brothers. And this is Amir al-Mu'mineen, the leader of the believers. And at night time, look at this, what he is doing. These are his night rounds. This is what he used to do. This was one of his practices. From these practices, he would then begin to reform the community. आपने सुना होगा औकाफ के बारे में, वक़फ़ के बारे में. The endowment system in Islam. कि लोग जो है, उनके जो खेतियाँ थी, बाग वगैरह, they would do waqf of it, endowment of it. The money which would come from these places would then be utilized for various projects. For example, someone would do waqf of a garden. उसमें से जो भी यानी खेती होती, they would give it to poor people, orphans, widows. Sometimes they would do the same thing and it would go towards the people who are traveling, जो मुसाफिर लोग थे, उनके लिए इसको इस्तेमाल किया जाता. When the Ottoman Empire was dismantled, one of the conditions which the Allied forces they placed upon the Ottomans, that this waqf system, once the Ottoman Empire is finished, this waqf system needs to be finished as well. And for this reason, आप खुद देखते हैं कि ये सब अब जो है, is finished. You don't see this kind of process anymore. But the main point is that look at the way the leader of the believers, and you might think this is one incident. No. On one occasion, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala an raat ko wo chal rahe hai, and on the outskirts of Madinatul Munawwara, there's a tent, ek khayma laga hua hai, aur ek banda bahar baitha hua hai. He sat outside, aur khayma ke andar, from inside the tent, there's a woman and she's screaming. To pareshan ho jata hai कि why is this woman screaming? What's going on? Like she's in a lot of pain. तो वो जो बंदा बाहर बैठा हुआ है, उनसे पूछता है, he says, what's going on? He says, none of your business, keep walking. He says, no, we need to know. She's clearly in distress, she's in pain. He says, look, none of your business. Carry on walking. When he insists, he says, listen, बात ये है कि जो औरत खैमे में है, वो मेरी ज़ौजा है, she's my wife, and she's currently giving birth to a child. So Sayyidina Umar, he says that, is anybody with her? He साथ भी है. He says, we're Bedouins, people who live in the desert, we were just traveling, she went into labor, there's nobody with her. So this man, he just sat outside. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he says, okay, that's fine, wait here, I'm coming. He returns back to his house. His wife is Sayyidah Kulthum, the daughter of Sayyidah Fatima, the daughter of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala. Sayyidina Ali would give his daughter Kulthum in marriage to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. People, they say there was enmity between the companions and Ahl Bayt. Here is Sayyidina Mawla Ali and Sayyidah Fatima giving their daughter, Sayyidina Kulthum, in the marriage to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he had so much love for the Ahl Bayt. We could mention so many stories just now. There were many occasions When Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and his own son Abdullah bin Umar would come to his door, Sayyidina Umar would not answer. I'm busy right now. And if Imam Hussein came, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and he would come out and he would answer him. And his son would say, you show more favoritism to them than you show to me. And Sayyidina Umar would say that they are the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So his wife Kulthum, he says to her that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us an opportunity to do good. So come with me. And what food do we have at our house? There's some flour, etc. They took it. When Sayyidina Umar gets to the tent, he says, this is my wife. She will help your wife. Let her go inside. She goes inside. And she's helping her deliver the child. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala says to the man, meri madad kare. We need to make a fire. हम आग को जलाते हैं, कुछ खाने के लिए कुछ हम इंतज़ाम करते हैं. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and himself, he mixes the fat into the flour and he begins to make the bread. As they are cooking the bread, Kulthum from inside of the tent, she says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, congratulations, the child has been born. और वो बंदा जो बाहर बैठा हुआ है, he's shocked. He says, आप Amir al-Mu'mineen हैं? And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala says, don't worry, take this food, give it to your wife. Tomorrow, because a child has been born, come and we will get you a stipend, we will fix a wage for your child from the Baytul Mal, inshallah. This is, my dear brothers, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. Where did he learn all of this from? Where did he learn this from? Remember in the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, when he was going into the desert, one day Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala रात के वक्त वो निकले और हर रात को मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा के बाहर जाकर एक जो मकान था, one particular house, he would go inside. Sayyidina Talha bin Ubaydillah, one of the 10 promised Jannah, वो कहते हैं कि मैं हर रात को देखता कि सैयदना उमर रज़ियल्लाहु ताला शाम को वो निकलते और वो मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा के बाहर यानी एक मकान था, वहाँ जाकर he would stay for a few hours and he'd come back. तो मैंने जो है I recognized which house it was. In the morning one day I went and I knocked on the door. And the person who answered the door, she was an elderly woman. Buri औरत थी, जो नाबीना थी, she was blind and she was crippled. She had some difficulty with her movements. तो पूछा कि वो जो आदमी रात को आता है, वो किस वजह से आती है? Why does he come? What is his purpose? And the elderly woman, she says, amazingly, Allahu Akbar, she says, this man, I don't know who he is. मैं पहचानता नहीं हूँ, नाम भी कभी नहीं कहा है. सिर्फ ये है कि हर रात को वो आते हैं और घर के जो काम होते हैं, the work in the house, he takes care of them. He cleans the house, he washes the clothes, so on and so forth. और कई साल हो चुके हैं. Many years have passed in this way where every night he comes, he sorts these kind of things up, and then he leaves from this place. And Sayyidina Talha bin Ubaydillah, he had tears in his eyes. He sees that. And what an amazing person is this, right? He's a leader of the believers, and yet look at the way this individual is. And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he was trained by Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, and he was taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. आज के ज़माने में हमारा प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि हम जो भी करते हैं वो ज़ाहिरी तौर पर करते हैं. सबको जानना चाहिए. अगर हम 5 पाउंड भी देंगे तो सबको पहचानना चाहिए. Everybody should know that I gave 5 pounds. अगर हम उम्रा पे गए तो ज़्यादा वक्त हम सेल्फी लेने में निकालेंगे. My dear brothers, मैं ऐसा नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि आप कोई भी अमल बज़ाहिर नहीं कर सकते हैं. अगर आपकी ये नीयत है कि अगर मैं खोल के दूंगा तो लोग साथ भी हो जाएंगे, people will join me in this good action. अगर आपकी ये नीयत है तो ठीक है, लेकिन मेरा ये कहना है कि कुछ न कुछ आमाल ऐसे भी रखे जो सिर्फ आप और अल्लाह सुब्हानहु व तआला के दरमियान है. क्योंकि इतने सारे गुनाह हमारे ऐसे हैं कि लोग जानते हैं, everybody knows, और ऐसे ऐसे गुनाह हैं कि सिर्फ we have between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But where is our good actions which are only between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So for this reason, we need to have some of these types of good actions, which is just between us and between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in addition to this, sometimes when Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he would come out of his house, he would see certain things that he didn't want to see. एक वक्त ऐसा हुआ कि Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala वो निकले, and he could hear music from a house. So he went into the house, and what does he see? He sees that there's an old man who sat inside. He's drinking alcohol. And there's other stuff that's happening in the room which shouldn't have been happening. He's drinking alcohol. Maybe there's some women there, so on and so forth. And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he says, you have one foot in the grave. मौत बिल्कुल करीब है. क्या अब भी अल्लाह से नहीं करेंगे? Will you not fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even at this elderly age of yours? And the man says that, this is my house. This is my private quarters. Even if you are Amirul Mu'mineen, you have no right to come to me inside my own house. This is one of the rulings. What a person does in the privacy of his house is between him and Allah subhanahu. Now Sayyidina Umar could have said, I have witnessed it, I will punish you. But no. Immediately he turns around, he leaves from the house. And he's in tears. He's right. No, this person is right. जो बात उसने कही वो सही थी कि ये मेरा हक नहीं बनता है, मैं ऐसा काम नहीं कर सकता हूँ. जब ये बुरा, when this old man, when he realizes, वो शर्मिंदा होता है, वो गुस्ल करता है. सुबह को he goes to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and he says, I am ashamed of my actions last night and I want to make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a few occasions which are written in the books of Tariq like this, where Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he came across people who were committing sins in their own private quarters. But Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he did not charge them because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands, وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Do not spy upon people. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, एक वक्त ऐसा हुआ कि वो बाहर निकले रात को, and there was a woman and she was reciting poetry. The poetry she was reciting, she was mentioning that she was missing her husband. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he knocked on the door. He says, क्या बात है? Why are you reciting these ash'ar? तो कहा कि मेरा जो शौहर है वो जिहाद के लिए गए हैं और कई अरसे से वो गए हुए हैं. And obviously this is a problem. So Sayyidina Umar says, look, wait, I will send a letter. It's only a matter of a letter, he will be back. फिर रात को he goes and he knocks on the house of his daughter, Sayyida Hafsa, the wife of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. और अर्ज करते हैं कि ए हफ्सा, सवाल ये है कि अगर शौहर चला जाए, then how long is it that she can stay away from her husband? यानी कितनी देर के लिए वो सब्र कर सकती है? Sayyida Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala, and haya, sharm, she got embarrassed. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala ne farmaya कि Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he does not have shame from the truth. तो इशारा किया 3 या 4. The next morning Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he changed the policy कि जो भी जिहाद के लिए जाएगा वो सिर्फ 3 या 4, he fixed 4 months. For maximum of 4 months they can stay away from their family, after which they will have to come back home. At this time, the Muslims, they are fighting the superpowers, the Romans and the Persians. But no, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he fixes this. And this is a lesson, my dear brothers. कई लोग ऐसे हैं, वो जॉब के लिए जाते हैं मिडल ईस्ट, कभी कभी वो यूके आ जाते हैं, और वो लोग जो जमात के लिए जाते हैं उनके लिए भी ये अर्ज करता हूँ कि कभी कभी वो साल के लिए full year they go, they leave their wife behind, their children behind. This is not from the practice of Sayyiduna Umar radiallahu ta'ala. क्योंकि वो लोग जो जिहाद के लिए जाते, after 4 months he would call them back. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he would take advice from the people. One day, वो मस्जिद में मिंबर पर खड़े हुए थे और कहा कि ओ women, आपने महर के बारे में तजावुज़ किया है, आप हद से बढ़ गई है, you've gone too far. You're setting the mahar too high. It's making it difficult for people to get married. So you need to start lowering the mahar. And if you do not, अगर ऐसा नहीं किया, तो जो हद से बाहर है, जो extra है, it will be taken from you and it will be placed into the Baytul Mal. एक औरत खड़ी हो गई, कहा कि अल्लाह सुब्हानहु व तआला ने कुरान पाक में महर के बारे में क्या इरशाद फरमाया? What has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the bridal gift, the dowry? Who fixes it? Whose choice is it? It is a woman's choice. It has nothing to do with you, Amir al-Mu'mineen. So you cannot make this restriction, this condition. When Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he heard this, immediately he said, what this woman has said, she is right. And what Umar has said is wrong. I retract what I have said. The women, they have their own choice as to what they set as their dowry. You know, today, अगर कोई हमको कहे कि आपने जो कहा है वो गलत है, तो हम कितने जो है हीला निकालेंगे. We take out so many different excuses, so many different roundabouts, just to try and prove that what we said was not wrong. But yet look at how Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala is. Look at his trustworthiness, his truthfulness. Look at how he deals with the situation. Completely different to how our actions are, unfortunately. And this wasn't just one occasion or 2 occasions, this was multiple occasions where he was like this. On one of his night rounds, and I'm bringing my discussion to a close now, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he was walking and he could hear a conversation between a mother and a daughter. The mother, she's saying to the daughter कि दूध में पानी जो है मिलाना है. You need to mix water and milk together. And what is this? This is a fraud. And the daughter saying no, and the mother saying, well, we have no one to provide for us. So we're going to have to do this if we want to survive. The daughter, she says, the Amir al-Mu'mineen, he has forbidden this. It's not allowed, it is illegal. So the mother says, where is Amir al-Mu'mineen? Can you see him? And the answer that the daughter gave, such a beautiful answer, she says, कि अगरचे अमीर मुमिनीन यहाँ नहीं है, हमको नहीं देख रहे हैं, लेकिन जो उमर बिन खत्ताब का जो खुदा है वो तो हमें देख रहा है. Even if Sayyidina Umar is not looking at us, the Lord of Sayyidina Umar is looking at us. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala वो वापस घर पे गए. उनके जितने भी बेटे थे सबको बुलाया, कहा कि किसको शादी करनी है, who needs to get married. There's no there's no dating, there's no Muslim match, there's no profile. One of the sons, he says, yes, I need to get married. Sayyidina Umar, he sends the proposal in the morning. Who is it from? It's from the son of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. And these 2 individuals, they get married. These 2 individuals, they get married, they have a daughter called Layla. Who is this woman? She would be the woman who would give birth to the first mujaddid of Islam, Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu ta'ala. The first mujaddid, he would only be Khalifa for 2 years. And he would revolutionize all of the bad stuff that had happened in the Ummah in 2 years. He would get rid of it and he would completely change the entire situation around. And this is the effect of piety. This is the effect of goodness. One of the shuyukh, he mentioned, I heard just recently, कि कुछ लोग जो है वो एक शेख को मिलने के लिए गए थे and the people, they said this person was a wali of Allah, a friend of Allah. लेकिन जब बेटा आया तो देखा कि बेटा तो बिल्कुल अलग है, completely different. उनके जो अखलाक है वो बहुत बुरे अखलाक है. And the father, he's so good and so pious. तो पूछा कि शेख आप बताइए कि हम देखते हैं कि आपके अखलाक तो इतने अच्छे हैं और आपका ये जो बेटा है वो तो यानी बहुत बद अखलाक है. He's a very bad person. तो what is the reason? Dear brothers, this is so important, such an important point. एक दिन ऐसा हुआ कि मैं किसी जगह पे दावत के लिए गया था और वो जो खाना था, the food which was presented to me, वो मशकूक था, it was doubtful. तो मैंने खा लिया, I ate it. और खाने के बाद जो शहवात होते हैं, desires, they came over me, I went to my wife. And the child that was born from that doubtful food, this is the child which you are looking at right in front of you right now. यानी हराम खाना नहीं था, just doubtful food. And the effect of this doubtful food was that this man who was known for his piety had a son who was so ill-fortunate, unfortunately. So in this manner, Sayyiduna Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he had his son married to this woman because of her piety. From this was born a woman who would go on to be the mother of Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu ta'ala. All of these actions, what maqam Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and he reached. I will finish with this one last final point, inshallah ta'ala. When the Muslims, they conquered Egypt, जब मिस्र मुसलमान के कब्जे में आए, तो उनका जो वजीर था, governor who was appointed, was Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu ta'ala. लोग उनके पास आए कि ए अमर, इस्लाम से कबल हमारा ये जो है करना था, we will do this, that every year on a particular month, on a particular day, we would take a young girl who was unmarried, जिनकी अभी शादी नहीं हुई थी, उनको लेकर we would place upon her the best clothing and the best jewelry. And then what would we do? We would present her as a sacrifice to the river Nile. यानी उनको कुर्बान कत्ल कर कर उसको कुर्बानी के तौर पर पेश करते. They would kill this young woman, they would throw her into the river Nile. As a consequence of this, we would not suffer from drought. हमेशा बारिश होती, and we would not be in any difficulty. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala ने फरमाया कि ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. इस्लाम के बाद अब ये जो अमल है वो बिल्कुल इस्लाम के खिलाफ है, हम ऐसा नहीं कर सकते हैं. लेकिन फिर क्या हुआ? लोग अल्लाह सुब्हानहु व तआला आजमाता है, he tests you. ये बात नहीं है कि हम इस्लाम पर अमल करेंगे तो कोई भी जो है इम्तिहान नहीं होगा, कोई भी, there's no test for us. No. After Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and he gives this verdict, what happens? There's no rain. कोई भी बारिश नहीं है. The river Nile, it begins to descend. यहाँ तक के लोग अब जो है वहाँ से हिजरत करने वाले हैं. People are going to leave from this place. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he writes a letter to Sayyidina Umar, who is Khalifa, कि ऐसा ऐसा हुआ, आप अब बताइए क्या करना चाहिए. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and he writes back कि आपने जो किया वो सही किया. कि जब इस्लाम आ जाता है तो इस्लाम के बाद जो जाहिल रिवाज है हम उन पर बिल्कुल अमल नहीं कर सकते हैं. My dear brothers, this is important, क्योंकि हम क्या करते हैं, हम कहते हैं कि my dad did this, my granddad did this, my great granddad did this, तो हम करते रहेंगे. अब अगर वो अमल ठीक है, सही है, सुन्नत और शरीयत के मुताबिक है तो ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम. लेकिन अगर उनका करना शरीयत के खिलाफ है, अल्लाह और रसूल सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के हुक्म के खिलाफ है, then it doesn't make a difference if your entire family did it, it doesn't make a difference if your entire lineage did it. But if it is against the teachings of Islam, you must have to leave it. He said, "Aapne jo kaha wo sahi hai. This is completely wrong in Islam. We are not allowed to do this." Inside this letter, there is another letter. तो ये जो कागज का जो टुकड़ा है, take it and place it into the river Nile. What was written on this letter? From Umar radiallahu ta'ala into the river Nile. If up until now you have been flowing of your own accord, from your own power, then do whatever you want. But if you have been flowing by the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then flow by the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They took the letter, they placed it into the river Nile. Only after a short period of time, what happened? The river Nile, not only did it rise, but it rose much more than it had before. Then look at the qudra, the power that was given to Sayyiduna Umar radiallahu ta'ala. That in writing just a small letter, placing it into the river, and the river even answers to Sayyiduna Umar radiallahu ta'ala. But additionally to this, if a woman was sacrificed once a year to the river Nile, 1400 years have passed. Think about how many women, how many children Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and he saved. This is the qudra, this is the power, this is the maqam, the station that was given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. And there's more to discuss inshaAllah, which we will do so in the coming days. On Monday inshaAllah we will continue. We make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His infinite mercy forgive us for our major and minor sins. Give us the ability to follow in the footsteps of the Khulafa al-Rashidun. Fill our hearts with the love of His Rasul, of His companions and His Ahlul Bayt. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us in this life and in the hereafter. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.